Hello, folks. How's it going? Hopefully you were caught by our catchy headline. These aren't the droids you were looking for. We're talking today about how to use Jedi mind tricks. This is Steve Lundgren, and I'm here with Nate Streeter. How you doing, Nate?
Hello.
From StreetSmart Marketing. We wanted to actually, what do we mean when we're talking about Jedi mind tricks? That sounds pretty wild.
It's just, really using psychology to your benefit as an entrepreneur. I would say that, that's maybe not as flashy, but that's really the truth. And over the years, I've seen so many smart business owners use so many of these cool different tricks.
Yeah.
And we have so many examples. I mean, that's what's going to be fun about today.
Right.
I think we even limited how many examples we were going to use. So it's going to be really cool.
All right, so we've got 4 points here. The first one is ask the right questions.
Yeah, so really what we're talking about today, many of you probably use some of these different tools now, but what it really comes down to is sort of being able to outthink and be ahead of, and this really applies whether it's your customer, whether it's your employee, whether it's an applicant, and we'll go through a lot of different examples, but a lot of it's about asking the right questions.
So it's like a probing kind of question?
Yeah.
Or?
So, let's say you're interviewing. And many of you, in fact, maybe we'll probably review this book, Ultimate Sales Machine by Chet Holmes. I love that book.
Right.
Rest in peace, Chet. I think he died this year. Didn't he have leukemia or something?
Oh, I don't recall. Man.
Yeah. But at any rate, he has several chapters that really kind of go into this, where when he brings people in for an interview, he never tells them anything about the position.
Oh,
And
wow.
man, I make that mistake, and I'm sure a lot of you do too. You're entrepreneurs, you're excited about your business, you're excited about what you do, and you start talking in an interview. That's a big problem. Don't do that.
Right.
Ask questions. Chet Holmes talks about, asking the right questions, making them feel uncomfortable. And number 2, 3, and 4 really kind of fold into that a bit too, where
Right.
you're asking questions that play to their assumptions.
Yep.
So you guys have probably all taken little psychology tests where they say something like, when you lie,
Yeah.
well, they're trying to play to your assumptions. Or, when you have a fight with a coworker, you do A, B, C. Well, they're playing to your assumptions.
Right. The way you answer that question tells them a lot.
Same thing. Depending how you ask the right questions, you can determine their motivations too.
Yep.
If I offered you $5,000, would you do X? Well, you can determine whether or not they might be motivated by money by that.
Yeah.
And asking them, what Chet Holmes is really good at is asking questions that make them outside, take them outside their comfort zone.
Yeah, there you go.
Steve, I don't think you're right for this position.
Oh, no.
It's obvious to me you don't have what it takes.
No,
Wouldn't
please.
you agree?
No,
Questions
no.
like that, that really takes someone, if you're in an interview and you ask a question like that, that really takes them outside their comfort zone.
Yeah.
And it can play to their assumptions too. What Chet Holmes is really trying to determine is how strong are they? How, self-confident are they? And really what he really wants them to say is, are you kidding me? I'm the best applicant you've ever seen in your entire life. It will be the biggest mistake of your company, in your company's history, if you don't hire me today.
Yeah, you can stop interviewing today.
But what happens, and I've done this, and Chet, obviously, I learned my lessons partly from him, is you'd be shocked at 90% of people fold. They say, you know what, you're right, I'm sorry for wasting your time, and they leave.
There you go.
Well, they're not going to be able to sell for you. If they fold that easy in an interview, they're definitely not going to be able to hold up when they're trying to sell your product.
Right. So it's so much better that you get that out on the table instead of spending all your time sort of selling them on your company.
Right.
You need to determine, kind of where they're at. Let's look at some of our other examples.
Yeah. So you had talked about the police officer example, and I think
Right.
that's a fantastic one. They're using Jedi mind tricks or these psychology things all the time.
Yep.
And what's the most famous one?
Oh, it's so typical. They walk up to the window after they pulled you over and they say, "Do you know why I pulled you over?"
Exactly.
And that's, depending upon, and we were thinking that maybe, man, one time in 100, somebody will tell them there's drugs in the trunk or who knows what.
More
or
than
a
that,
dead
I
body.
think. Probably 1 in 5. Because the thing is that, see, they're playing to your assumptions.
Yeah.
They assume, again, the person who got pulled over, they don't know how much the police know about the car, how much, some
Why they
thieves
were
do.
pulled over, yeah.
Right. Some thieves do, but a lot don't. So what the cop is doing is he's using an open-ended question that might play into your assumptions.
Right.
For you to admit something. And you guys have probably all used tools like this with your kids too. Where you're like, you think that they might have been doing something and you ask a question that sort of puts them in a spot where they're, so why were you cheating after school today? Or something like that.
Who ate all the cookies?
Yeah, exactly. So, those are great examples. Another good example is Zappos. You guys know the shoe company, billion-dollar shoe company online, Zappos.com, and we love them. I know they come up in our little things here all the time.
Right.
But theirs is a good, they use a Jedi mind trick. They will train people. I think it's like a 4 to 6 week paid training that they do.
Wow.
And these are for like people who answer phones. We're not talking about like executives or something like that, right?
Right.
But they have a fairly long training process. And then at the end of the training process, I think they offer them like $2,000 or $3,000 for them to not take the job.
So they have to quit.
Yeah.
Okay.
And a fair amount of people take it. I think it's maybe like I think it's 10 or 20%, more than I thought would. But their rationale being, if they're willing to take the money at that point, if they'd rather take the money than take the job, it's not likely they're going to be a good person to be working there.
They don't really value it long term.
Right. So again, they're determining their motivations, and and this is such a cool example of how to do that. Or what about marriage counseling, Steve? We talked a lot about that.
Yeah, that's a good one. You had an example about somebody who spent the time trying to talk them out of getting married.
Yeah, well, I remember reading an article about a pastor, and he was having crazy success. Like 95% of the couples he married were staying married. Wow. And so they did, they basically had some reporter come and say, hey, well, what the heck are you doing? Half the marriages in the United States are ending in divorce, and somehow you're able to do it. And he said, oh, it's simple. I have a very rigorous process of premarital counseling. And I said, oh, so premarital counseling is the answer. He said, no. Actually, what I do for 3 months is I try to talk them out of getting married. And the reporter said, you do what? And he said, yeah, I just, I basically open up, get them talking about sex and try to talk them out of it because it won't work sexually. I get them to talk about roles and try to get them to figure it's not going to work that way. Talk about money, and get them. And I figure if by the end of it, I can't talk them out of it, then they'll probably be, successfully married.
Wow,
so,
that's great.
But that's basically what he's doing. He's playing to their assumptions. He's determining their motivations. He's putting them in situations where they're outside their comfort zone. I mean, all these 2, 3, and 4. Right. That pastor, without even really realizing it, he's doing all 4 of these things.
Right.
And really understanding and setting those people up for success, really.
Right.
By putting them in all those situations. So. And poker is probably the easiest example. You guys have, any of you who play poker, I love poker, and that's all it is, right? It's just positioning yourself one way, doing something different, figuring out what the motivations and assumptions are at the table.
Using the psychology.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about psychology, and the best poker players, that's what they're doing, is they're trying to set the stage for who they are. Right. And then changing it when it's to their benefit, trying to figure out who other people really are, how they play. So those are good examples too. And, even at Paperboy, our flyer delivery company, we've used all kinds of psychological tricks over the years. So let's say we catch someone cheating, and we figured last Wednesday is when they were cheating. Maybe we don't have all the data we need from Tuesday, or we're just not sure about Tuesday, but we know they were cheating on Wednesday.
Gotcha.
We come to them and ask them why they were cheating on Tuesday. Again, it's the same thing. We're playing to their assumptions. They then assume that that they were cheating on Tuesday.
Right.
But that you don't know about Wednesday.
Yeah.
Even though actually it's just the opposite.
The other way around.
So we're playing into their assumptions. And so, in some cases, like you and I have talked about, they come back and say, what are you talking about? I wasn't cheating on Tuesday. I was cheating on Wednesday. We've had that happen. And then when it's like, oh, you're right, I made a mistake. It does look like it was only Wednesday, but then sometimes they just lie altogether, whatever. But then, see, they basically, because we play to their assumptions and ask the right questions, we can find out more than we know in the first place.
So you set it up with a question that they had no idea was coming at them.
Right.
And how they react tells you something.
Right. And you play to the assumptions that, they may have, and basically use that to your example. Hard life situations are great, or hard business. Your business is, sales have skyrocketed or sales have plummeted and
Right.
people are stressed out, they're overworked, they're whatever.
Yeah.
These are fantastic situations to use these kind of these kind of tools too, because when people are outside their comfort zone, often their motivations, their assumptions, all of these underlining currents come out.
Yeah.
And man alive, do you want to make note of those things and observe them.
Right.
Because that's when you really find out who you're married to or who's on your team in your business or whatever the case might be, that you're analyzing.
Yeah.
And to be an effective leader, and you might say, well, why in the world why do we care about this? Because it helps you be an effective leader. You need to know who you're leading.
Yeah.
And
you get the answers you need.
exactly, and figure out, what their assumptions are, what their motivations are, how their behavior might be outside of a comfort zone. If they're really going to go to bat for you or your organization long term, are they in it to win it?
There you go.
And these are all different tools that you can use for that end.
Okay.
So
Well, this has been good. Let's wrap it up.
I feel bad, Steve, because I pretty much have
No, that's all right.
dominated this.
No,
I'm
that's all
sorry.
right. That's all right.
But I mean, I'm passionate about this, and it's because I've seen so many of you who have successful businesses that I've worked with. You guys do a lot of this stuff, or guys and gals do this stuff without even thinking about it.
Yeah.
And I've sort of watched you, because I don't do it all without thinking about it. I wish I did. I'm not as smart as so many of you. I
That's
wish someone
natural.
would have, came to me 10 years ago and showed me a bunch of this stuff.
Right.
And now I've been lucky to be able to use more of this. But this is definitely tools that, better leaders use all the time.
Yeah, so if you've got some good tricks that you want to share with us, be sure and get in touch with us. So here's what's next. Here's what you can do to help us. Leave a review, comment, or Twitter mention. Share this video with someone that you think could help, or if it helped you, let us know. Suggest a video topic, or if you've got some Jedi mind tricks you want to share with us, we want to hear about it.
Well, and tell us how our pop psychology is all wrong. We'd love to get an email like that.
Right. If there's a psychologist out there that can give us the right terminology for this stuff, we'd really appreciate it. But if you'd like to do some work with us, ready to take action, next steps would be to give us a call at 763-280-3604, or you can email Nate at paperboyprinting.com or streetsmartagency.com.
Yep.
Twitter account for that is @NateStreeter. We look forward to hearing from you. Thanks.
Thanks so much.